In its long history, the APA has been through some major milestones and significant changes in the way we think about and treat mental health. To discuss one of the biggest of these, I'm joined by APA CEO and Medical Director Saul Levin. Saul, thank you ever so much indeed for joining us today.
Well, thank you for that, and it's good to be back, and we are back.
I could see that. So let me start off. This is the 50th anniversary of the famous speech by John Fryer.
Yeah.
What do you think every psychiatrist should know about John Fryer?
It's hard because we have a lot of heroes and unsung heroes, in the movement of moving psychiatry from what was, I'll say, the times of the dark ages into the new millennium, which is so much research, the science of psychiatry on it. But there are a number of people who just stand out, and John Fryer was one. Homosexuality for decades and generations. You went to prison, there were horrible treatments that were done. And John Fryer and a group of psychiatrists, gay psychiatrists, finally got together and they said, could someone stand up at an annual meeting knowing they could lose their job, they could still go to jail, for coming out openly. And John Fryer stepped up. Who was actually a mild-mannered man. He was gregarious, but not one to want to be totally upfront. And he said, no one's doing it, I will do it. And for that, I'm personally deeply grateful for him. I am a gay man, and it's remarkable 50 years later that, because of his legacy of what he did, that here I'm the first gay openly CEO and medical director of APA.
What struck me when I looked into it was how recent that was. You seem to think that something such a momentous that should have happened an awful long time ago, but it's in recent history.
Right, correct. And there are people still here who come to this meeting who actually attended that meeting. I have one or two of my past presidents actually were there behind, which is actually strange, the screen, but they couldn't come out at the time, being there. And so you realize that I'll say the human and civil rights of LGBTQI people in this country, was very recent, and unfortunately could be turned back.
So how are you marking it at this conference?
So we were having a very big plenary, or we are having a very big plenary, where we're going to have, in some ways, celebration of the whole event of what John Fryer created, which was that he asked, and the scientists finally agreed, that show us the data that homosexuality was a mental illness. Not that homosexuals or gay people or LGBTQ, as we now like to be referred to, can't have depression, can't have anxiety, can't have everything of the other mental illnesses that everyone can or could get, But it was the fact there was homosexuality, and it was the way he did it. Coming out in a grotesque mask, which is actually a Nixon mask, but he had such a big head they had to stretch it, and the way he spoke, it was a voice modulator. Clearly he was puffed up, so he couldn't really be recognized. I sometimes say, I don't think the audience was that big a fool. He was 6 foot plus, was a large man to start. But the interesting thing was, I finally listened to the 10 minutes of his speech. We found it in the archives. It was a tape. And I thought it would be a squeaky modulated voice like you always have, when people go on TV and they cannot be identified because of feelings for their life. And John could have lost his job over this, in his whole career. It was one of the most erudite speeches and from the heart speeches that I've ever heard. And I often wondered, how did he get psychiatrists who were steeped in the psychoanalytic philosophy that homosexuality was an arrested stage of development that they could change? How did he do it? And I urge you, and I urge the membership, really think about listening to that 10 minutes. And you'll realize when he spoke about the humanity of man and psychiatrists, I understood now why he was so successful in that speech. And he hit the key point. Show us the research, and if that's the case, we'll keep quiet. And within a year and a half, APA had taken it out, which I can tell you for any large organization is remarkable.
Tell us some of the things that you're looking forward to having everybody back here in New Orleans.
So I think the first is the human context. I'm seeing my classmates from during residency, and we're now growing up, aging out, and sort of now in our careers, and also seeing the younger, dynamic residents and early career psychiatrists coming in here. So it's made it alive again. And psychiatry in essence is communications, talking one-on-one. Zoom is not quite the best vehicle. It's really good for therapy for a certain hour, but long conferences, you want that interaction. And I got to tell you, more people have said when I've chatted and got teary-eyed when I've seen some of the people I haven't seen for a while, and we're hearing that a lot from the members here, is it's just good to be back amongst our colleagues and friends.
Let me pick up finally on one point you just made there about young people. And New Orleans can be quite an intimidating city and a big conference. What advice would you give to somebody just starting off, coming to this conference?
Well, the first thing I'd say is you're coming to the conference, so come to the conference. In evenings, go out, have a good time, have a few drinks, enjoy yourself. But remember, you're here to hear from, in some ways, the experts in the field that many are not going to have a chance unless they come to a conference like that. But then on the flip side of it is, you're young, you want to see the city, you want to party, you want to see what's great, do that. And just make sure that when you leave here, you don't say, oh boy, later, I missed that talk that I really should have gone to because I'm seeing it in my practice or what I'm learning about. But they also need to go to say, boy, New Orleans was a great city. It was fun to be at, and I can't wait to come back here again. So NOLA wins, and so does A.P.A.
Thanks ever so much. Really a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thank you. Good to see you again.
You too.
To next year and year and year and year after. Okay.